A woman revealed her love to a man, but by evening, a ghostly female apparition appeared at her home. The next morning, police found Caroline's body by the riverbank. Ichabod arrived on the scene, visibly distraught. Just last night, they had been chatting and laughing together. Today, Caroline was nothing but a cold corpse. Abby discovered some tire tracks nearby, but oddly, there were no footprints around. It seemed that the person in the car must have seen something frightening, which made them drive away without getting out. Abby speculated that it might have been local students who often sneak here for secret dates, so they started investigating the neighboring schools. And after some questioning, they finally found a witness to the night. Sherman said he and his girlfriend were talking in the car when they suddenly heard a woman crying outside. Then, a dark figure hit their car. They were so scared that they immediately drove away. Sherman believed it was the Weeping Lady who appeared. Their investigation revealed that the Weeping Lady was a local legend, a ghost of a woman who had drowned in Blind Creek River. Whenever the Weeping Lady appeared, her body dripped with water and her eyes emitted a green glow. To uncover the origins of the ghost, they went to the Sleepy Hollow Library. While Ichabod was searching for the books, a raven with a letter landed on the window. He took the letter and opened it, only to find that it was a peace message from Katrina. She wrote that she was fine and told Ichabod not to worry. Just as Ichabod was quietly rejoicing, Abby saw a woman draped in black veils. When Ichabod heard the noise and came over, he saw a deep, bottomless pool of water on the ground, and Abby was being forcefully held underwater by the ghost. Abby struggled to free herself and gasped for air, but the ghost pulled her down again. Ichabod reached into the water, desperately grasping until, in the final moment, he managed to pull Abby out. The black pool also disappeared from the ground. After this incident, Ichabod realized that the ghost was particularly interested in the women around him. First, the ghost had killed the woman who expressed her love for him, and now it was targeting Abby, his companion in arms. Surely, the ghost had some motive. Abby pulled out a piece of fabric she had torn from the ghost. Seeing the fabric, Ichabod instantly thought of someone. 200 years ago, his friend Mary wore clothes made of this material. Mary had traveled a long way to find Ichabod in order to bring him back to London to marry her, but Ichabod had declined Mary's affections, as his heart always belonged to Katrina. The next day, Mary wrote a farewell letter to Ichabod, claiming she was boarding a ship back to London. But now, it seemed likely that Mary was the ghost, and she had never left this place over the 2 centuries. Mary's targeting of Ichabod's female companions might be out of a love turned to hatred, a destructive impulse born from unrequited feelings. At this thought, Ichabod suddenly remembered Katrina and realized the letter from his pocket was gone. At that moment, Mary was in the water. Reading the contents of the letter, the intimate terms used in it infuriated her, prompting Mary to go directly to find Katrina. When Ichabod and Abby arrived, they only found a pool of water and the letter. Abby recalled seeing a bridge when she was pulled under the water. She suspected Mary might have taken Katrina there and immediately rushed off with Ichabod. There, Mary was holding Katrina tightly in the water, and as Katrina struggled to free herself, she used magic to control the vines in the water. As Mary was entangled by the vines, Katrina swiftly swam to the surface and ran to land. At this time, Ichabod and Abby also arrived at the scene. Ichabod shared the information he had gathered with Katrina, hearing that the ghost was Mary from the past. Katrina looked contemplative. She told Ichabod that Mary possessed dark magical powers, which only their son could have bestowed. To lift the curse from Mary, Katrina decided to risk using dark magic herself. Ichabod went alone to the riverside to find Mary, while Katrina and Abby performed the witchcraft together. Ichabod tried to calm Mary with past affections, but by then, the curse had taken over her mind. She passed through Ichabod's body and rushed towards Katrina and Abby. Just as Mary was about to reach them, a force pinned her to the ground. The dark magic had taken effect, and Mary's soul was about to depart from the world. Ichabod lifted Mary from the ground, puzzled as to why she hadn't left all those years ago.
You wrote me a letter. You said you were going home. Why are you still here? Mary, what happened to you?
Ichabod looked perplexed at Katrina, and under his persistent questioning, Katrina finally revealed the events of the past. Originally, after Ichabod rejected Mary, she invited Katrina out that evening. As soon as they met, Mary was visibly unstable, and during their conversation, she accidentally fell off a cliff. By the time Katrina reached the bottom of the cliff, Mary was already breathless. and the farewell letter was actually a forgery created by Katrina using magic. Katrina had kept this secret to prevent Ichabod from being distracted on the battlefield. While Ichabod was talking to Katrina, the Headless Horseman suddenly appeared from behind. But fortunately, Abby tackled Ichabod in time. Seeing this, Katrina quickly used her magic to stop the Headless Horseman.
He saved me just now. Though I know you might hate him, if you care for me, truly care for me like you say you do, you will repay him with his life. I am ready to go home.
The boy's body harbored a Wendigo with the head of a ram and the body of a human. Whenever he encountered blood, he could not control his transformation. Each time he morphed into the monster, those around him were left with their innards hollowed out. That day, Abby and Ichabod responded to an emergency call and rushed to a forest. Upon arrival, they found several bodies with their insides hollowed out, and not far from the scene lay a boy. Approaching, Abby realized the boy was Joe, the son of Corbin, who had been killed while on a mission with her, which had left Joe harboring resentment towards her. Since Joe was unwilling to talk, Abby and Ichabod returned to their archive room. After reviewing numerous records, they learned that the Wendigo is a cannibalistic creature from Algonquin mythology. A Wendigo possesses both human and monstrous traits, and the scent of blood triggers an insatiable hunger in it, reverting to its original form only after consuming human viscera. It seems that Joe was probably Wendigo. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Abby and Ichabod were just about to head to the hospital when they received news of Joe's disappearance, prompting them to rush to his house instead. The house appeared long uninhabited. On a table, Abby found a piece of paper with coordinates written on it, pointing to a place called Pioneer Point. At that moment, Joe was frantically digging in the dirt there, soon unearthing a box. When Abby and Ichabod arrived, Joe, clutching the box, attempted to flee. During the pursuit, Ichabod's nose was accidentally injured by Joe, and the smell of blood quickly awakened the Wendigo's appetite. Realizing he was about to transform, Joe loudly urged them to leave the area. To prevent Joe from harming others, Abby locked him in a cell. Jenny brought some human viscera from the morgue, and after Joe consumed them, his body gradually reverted to human form. Once lucid, Joe shared his ordeal with them. A few weeks earlier, he had received a letter dusted with a white powder, stating he was cursed and to break it, he must retrieve something left by Corbin. Initially, Joe thought it was a prank, but after experiencing his first transformation, he realized the severity of the situation. The letter did not specify who was behind it, only leaving an address for Fred's estate. Abby immediately thought of Henry, as that was his residence. Henry's urgent desire for the box indicated that its contents were of great importance to them. Upon opening the box, they discovered it contained a golden silkworm, a creature with potent toxicity. Though they were unsure of Henry's intentions with the golden silkworm, Joe's curse was deepening, and they needed to find an antidote urgently. According to records, the Native Americans once dealt with a Wendigo. However, while Ichabod went out seeking Native American assistance, Henry arrived with mercenaries at the location where Joe was detained. Intent on retrieving the golden silkworm, to avoid a violent confrontation, Joe handed over the golden silkworm. Despite Abby's attempts to dissuade him, Joe ultimately left with Henry, but once they reached a safe location, Henry suddenly stabbed Joe's arm with a dagger. By the time Ichabod returned with a method to break the curse, Joe had already transformed into the Wendigo and disappeared. They cut their palms and searched throughout the town for Joe. Soon, the transformed Joe was lured by the smell of blood. Ichabod stealthily approached and stabbed Joe with a dagger, then quickly collected some of the blood on the blade into a skull. By reciting his spell, the Wendigo's curse could be broken. However, after Ichabod finished chanting the text in the Native American language, Joe's body showed no signs of reverting back. It now seemed likely that the Wendigo had fully merged with Joe, and the only solution was to completely destroy him. Upon hearing this, Abby vehemently disagreed. Corbin's death already weighed heavily on her conscience. She could not bear to see Joe die before her eyes as well. As Abby repeatedly called out Joe's name, the Wendigo emitted a painful roar.
You made it.
Henry transformed a deadly golden silkworm into a spider, which he then controlled to enter his mother's body. In an instant, the image of Moloch appeared in Katrina's mind, and upon waking, she felt terribly unwell, sensing a strong evil force within her. As Katrina was sharing this with Abraham, Henry burst in with a group of people, who took control of Katrina and examined her eyes. Once the plan was confirmed to be successful, Henry was ready to leave with Katrina. Seeing this, Abraham tried to intervene, but Henry opened the window and used the sunlight to immobilize him. Hearing Katrina's desperate cries for help, Abraham, despite his burns, chased after them and threw his battle axe, killing one of the mercenaries. In the ensuing chaos, Katrina seized the opportunity to break free and escape. Henry then opened the door wide, exposing Abraham completely to the sunlight. Yet he did not pursue the fleeing Katrina. By now, Katrina had reached a highway, and in her panic, she fainted in front of a car wash. When Ichabod arrived at the hospital after receiving the news, Katrina recounted everything to him. By now, black patterns had appeared on Katrina's stomach, and despite her attempts to use witchcraft to remove them, she was unable to heal. Katrina suspected that all of this was Moloch's doing, but now they have to leave the hospital as soon as possible, because Henry's men are already here. Abby instructed Ichabod to take Katrina out the back door while he secretly followed those men. In a remote, abandoned factory, Henry's men were studying an ancient stone, carefully slipping inside. Abby took the opportunity when the men were out to quickly photograph the contents of the mobile phone. Before leaving, Abby also took a research notebook, which revealed that Katrina's condition was not an illness but a pregnancy, but they have not lived together for hundreds of years. Ichabod thought that Katrina betrayed herself and went to Abraham, and then a wave of anger arose in his heart. But when Ichabod saw the last page of the documents, he realized that Katrina had been made a host, and the entity inside her was the previously stolen golden silkworm. This silkworm was concocted from various poisonous substances. Just then, a barrier at the door was triggered by an external force, prompting them to grab the items and leave. They reached a dilapidated church. Katrina believed there was still a chance for redemption. Their son, Henry, who fed on sin, could help expel the demon within her if he was willing to assist. Ichabod immediately rejected Katrina's proposal, arguing that although Henry possessed great power, he had used it for dark practices, and Ichabod felt that Henry had been completely corrupted. However, Katrina did not agree. She believed there was still humanity in their son, attributing his current state to a lack of parental care. She argued that more tolerance towards Henry might save him from the darkness. Seeing Katrina so determined, Ichabod reluctantly agreed to her suggestion, but when Ichabod met with Henry, he learned that what was inside Katrina was no ordinary demon. At the same time, Abby read a passage in her notes.
Smeared with the blood of human sacrifice and parents' tears. First came the horrid king, Moloch.
Upon learning that the entity inside was Moloch, the chief of demons, Katrina was filled with fear and instinctively glanced at the handgun in front of her. If the host died, Moloch could not be resurrected, so Katrina suggested that Abby kill her, but Abby immediately dismissed the idea. At that moment, Ichabod was still pleading with Henry to undo everything, but Henry felt no affection for him, recognizing only Moloch as his father. Despondently, Ichabod returned to the church, his heart filled with despair as he looked at his increasingly frail wife. But then a photograph caught Ichabod's attention. The stone in the picture reflected the colors of the Aurora Borealis. Benjamin had once forged an aurora prism specifically to prevent Moloch's descent to Earth. The prism, when exposed to sunlight, could emit an auroral light capable of banishing Moloch before his birth. It seemed the prism was indeed hidden within that stone. To retrieve the prism quickly, Abby mobilized a SEAL team, who directly attacked Henry's lab with overwhelming force. During the ensuing chaos, Ichabod and Abby quickly reached the box holding the stone and swiftly left with it. By this time, Katrina's stomach was still growing, and Moloch was beginning to stir violently inside her. When Ichabod and Abby returned, they immediately smashed the stone, and indeed, an aurora prism was inside. Ichabod quickly took the prism to the window, and instantly a beam of auroral light shone on Katrina. As Moloch was dispersed, Katrina's abdomen gradually returned to normal. Although they had successfully thwarted Moloch's plan, greater dangers awaited them. Henry had already summoned an even more terrifying demon. Henry took a heart from a jar and closed his eyes. chanting a spell. Soon, a beautiful woman was summoned. She was a succubus who fed on human souls. The reason Henry woke up Succubus was to bring Moloch, the head of the demons, down to earth. After Ichabod used the aurora light to disperse Moloch, Henry collected the scattered demonic energy and nourished it with a multitude of souls. A series of murders in the town soon caught the attention of Ichabod and his group. From the desiccated marks on the bodies, Katrina, a witch by trade, immediately thought of the succubus. The succubus could not only dilute other souls to prolong her own life but also see through everyone's deepest desires. Using these desires, the succubus easily gained people's favor. Katrina then asked Ichabod to bring a map. She lit a candle with magic and chanted a tracking spell. The dripping wax flowed towards a dock on the map. Upon seeing this, Abby's brow furrowed instantly because her good friend Nick lived there. At that moment, Nick was introducing himself to a girl he had just met, unaware that she was the soul-sucking succubus. By the time Ichabod and his team arrived, the succubus had already revealed her true form, opening her mouth wide to crazily suck Nick's soul. At a crucial moment, Nick pulled a crystal from his pocket, and its power instantly interrupted the succubus's action. Ichabod rushed over with his weapon. While they were wrestling, Abby quickly shot the succubus, but the bullets seemed unable to harm her physical body. Seeing that she was outnumbered, the succubus decided to flee the scene. Ichabod went forward to help Nick up from the ground. Seeing the affectionate look Nick gave Abby, Ichabod immediately understood everything. It was certainly Nick's inner desires that had attracted the succubus. When they returned to their residence, Katrina revealed shocking news. Recently, her mind had been filled with additional images. In these visions, the succubus offered the souls she had absorbed to Henry, who was using them to nourish an infant boy. This boy was none other than Moloch, previously dispersed. They had never imagined that Henry would revive Moloch in this manner. To prevent the succubus from continuing to consume others' souls, they immediately began searching for the succubus's weakness. Documents indicated that succubi are demons without hearts and can detect and devour the desires of other beings. To destroy a succubus, one must destroy her heart. Katrina speculated that the succubus's heart must be hidden in a sacred place, such as a church or a graveyard. Upon hearing this, Abby immediately checked Henry's recent activities. He had applied for access to Incheon Cemetery just a few days ago. It seemed likely that the succubus's heart was hidden there. They split into two teams. Katrina and Abby headed to the cemetery to search for the heart, while Ichabod and Nick went to a bar. The bar was a frequent hunting ground for the succubus, and as they searched for her, she had already spotted them from afar. But in the blink of an eye, the succubus disappeared into the crowd. Meanwhile, Katrina and Abby found a tombstone engraved with spells. As soon as they entered the tomb, Katrina sensed an evil force. Inside the wall, Katrina found a jar, but when she opened it, it was filled with maggots, causing her to recoil in horror. However, in Abby's eyes, the jar was filled with rats. They then realized the jar was enchanted with an illusion spell, making each person see their greatest fear. Abby, gathering her courage, reached into the jar and effortlessly retrieved the heart. Meanwhile, Ichabod tracked the succubus to a warehouse, but she had already noticed him. As the succubus narrated Ichabod's innermost desires, she slowly approached him. Meanwhile, in the crypt, Katrina began chanting a spell over the heart. As smoke rose from the heart, suddenly a protective spell on the jar knocked Katrina to the ground. Seeing this, Abby quickly shot the jar to destroy it, but Katrina had already fallen unconscious. Reluctantly, Abby picked up the spell and continued chanting. Just in time, Nick arrived to interrupt Ichabod and the succubus. The angered succubus knocked Nick to the ground. As Abby finished the remaining spell, flames suddenly rose from the heart in front of her. Ichabod also came to his senses. After successfully eliminating the succubus, the awakened Katrina asked Abby to convey a message. She wanted to return to Abraham's side, then find a way to approach Moloch and destroy him. Although this was very unfair to Ichabod, in order to completely end these days of constant fear, she felt she had no choice but to take the risk and infiltrate the enemy's ranks.